Hey, folks, welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. I'm Ted Glover, your humble host, and with me are my three partners in crime, but only two are going to be on screen. We've got Christopher Gates, the founder and longtime editor of the Daily Norseman, the SB Nation site for your Minnesota Vikings news. My co-host for our regular Vikings Report, Drew Bunting, and in the background doing all the technical stuff that makes this show possible is Toonces the Talking Cat. So we'll all say hi to Toonces, and then we will move on. Before we get going, there's a lot to cover. We said during our regular show that we said, hey, why don't you folks that watch the show give us a good name for our post-game show? And we decided that Dan Lee, one of our longtime viewers, decided we decided on his entry, which was Vikings Report Rewind. So Dan Lee, congratulations. He's already picked out a prize. It's a Dalvin Cook shirt. Thank you for participating. Thank you for everybody that sent in suggestions. There were a lot of great ones, but we thought that with the retro theme that we liked, that Vikings Report Rewind, I hope you liked it, a little George Michael Sports Machine tribute. I also want to shout out a podcast that I started listening to, a guy by the name of Mike Perrin, who runs Purple Perrin's podcast, just started it up in June. Really good. It's no frills, cuts right to the chase, and gets right to what you want to know about Vikings news and information on a daily basis. So Mike Perrin, Perrin's Purple podcast. That's an alliteration I can't deal with after a 33-6 beatdown.
Easy for
go
you
ahead
to say.
and listen to it. Watch it when you get a chance. Speaking of 33-6 beatdown, Christopher Gates, you're going to start this show off because I don't even know where to go.
Oh, am I?
What are your initial? Just give me your initial impressions of today's game, 33-6 loss against the Denver Broncos.
If the Minnesota Vikings ever find themselves in a situation where they have to bench 30 players, they're in big trouble. But as long as they can play the starters at some point, they might be okay. But yeah, I know it's preseason and you're being vanilla, but still, you don't want to see your team get hammered like this. And nobody. There was like maybe one or two guys that looked semi-decent out there for the most part, but yeah, it was bad. I mean, it's nice that Vikings football is back, but this is not, I think, what most of us wanted to see.
Drew Bunting, what were your thoughts as the game started to unfold? I mean, it started off bad and it just got worse, man.
Oh, well, none of the starters played. So you try to keep that to the forefront of everything that we're going to talk about tonight. But,
yes.
That only goes so far. We talked about this last episode, which came out this morning, episode 28. You asked me last week, what are you looking for in this first preseason game? And I think we were both in agreement when we said no injuries, which I think we came out pretty well with injuries today.
We'll hit that in a second.
Yeah, there was a couple, I think. But overall, we didn't want to see any guys out of position. We didn't want to see getting burned for 80-yard touchdown passes. You don't want to see guys tackling bad. We just thought we don't want to see a bunch of knucklehead plays, I think we called it. And that's what you started out seeing. And that knucklehead plays, doesn't matter if it's first string or second string or fifth string or whatever. You don't want to see any of it. I have a little coffee mug here that I kept all the good things we did in today. Vikings coffee mug here. Let me reach in there and see. It might take me a while to pull those out, Ted. So I don't know. You want to try to keep a positive attitude. First game, none of the starters were in there, but kind of with Chris, you don't want to see your team get beat down like that. That just seemed like, well, Dakota Dozier got us up on the scoring. It started us off with the scoring, though.
Okay, here's my thing with Dakota Dozier.
Oh.
This is Dakota Dozier's career in a nutshell. He had to hold Shamar Stephen in the end zone to prevent a sack of Jake Browning. our Stefan is literally the worst pass rushing defensive lineman in the NFL last year. That tells me all I need to know about Dakota Dozier. And if we could just end the Dakota Dozier is in the running for starting right guard. I'll if that's like the one thing that comes out of this game, I'll take it as a net plus.
Why is he here, Chris?
I said on social media right after the play that the Vikings need to cut 5 guys before 3 p.m. on Tuesday. Dakota Dozier needs to be one of those guys. He needs to go now. There is no reason. I mean, like Ted said, Shamar Stephen is terrible at rushing the passer, and he just bulldozed Dakota Dozier. It wasn't even a particularly close rep. Like they would have blown that dead in practice. It was that awful. I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it at all.
Dozier was literally bear hugging him in the end zone. That's how bad he got beat on that play.
But see, it wasn't just Dozier. We're getting it's guys that have been in the league long enough where they're supposed to know what the hell they're doing out there. I mean, we got Stephen Weatherly and Jalen Holmes jumping off sides. We've got Dakota Dozier holding dudes in the end. These are the veteran players. These are the dudes that are supposed to know what the hell's going on out there, and they're out there making mistakes that you would expect from like undrafted free agents and stuff like that. It's not acceptable.
What does the bad discipline point to then? If you have veterans with bad discipline and the rest of the team with bad discipline, what does that point to?
Coaching.
Yeah.
It goes back to that. I mean, and you can say, well, it's a preseason game and they're running vanilla this and they're not running starters. It's not hard at that level to not jump off sides.
It's not.
No.
It's not hard at that level to engage your guy and block him and not get a holding penalty in the end zone. It's the fundamental things that, we talked about last year when we were talking, Drew and Chris a couple of times when we were still over on Climbing the Pocket with our buddy Dave, who's doing a show right now. Hi, Dave. I hope things are going well for you, pal.
Hey, Dave.
It just seems like it's a carryover. And for some good things I saw for some of the rookies, just those basic fundamental things that you expect of the veterans on your football team. If it's a guy like Chaz Surratt or Janarius Robinson or Wyatt Davis doing something stupid like that, you can kind of forgive that because they're rookies. But these guys have been in the NFL longer than a day, and you shouldn't see that from those guys. And I don't know what to expect going forward now. I do. I mean, we're going to see starters, and it's going to get a lot cleaner. But if the discipline, the lack of discipline, the dumb, stupid penalties that we saw today is still kind of a hallmark for this team, it's going to be hard for them to compete and make a deep run because you can't do that against good teams. I mean, yeah, okay, get it out of your system now, but it was just frustrating to see on their very first preseason game.
Yeah, I think Chris brings up a really good point when he says you better keep those starters healthy. Because the backups did not do well today, any of them. I mean, the defensive line, do we get any pressure on the quarterback all day? I mean, it was
I don't think so.
A lot of bad tackling by people. I don't know why that Maben guy's even out there anymore. I mean, I don't know. You guys might know him better than I do, but he had some really bad plays. But it's kind of what we're wading through here, wading through the preseason. Yeah. It just feels like it was just a sad representation of. I mean, they come out. Denver has their starters. We have the backups. So I don't know if Zimmer just kind of rolled over because of that. I don't know.
Well, I will say, that opening drive Denver had, they got all the way down to the goal line, and I thought Chris Boyd made a great play on fourth down to prevent the score. Vikings took over, and then we had the I believe that next offensive sequence is when Dozier had the safety. So I mean, when that happens, there were, for every 2 or 3 bad things, there was a good takeaway. Chris Boyd, I thought when he was in playing for the ones, did okay. I mean, he had a couple other decent plays. Cameron Dantzler did not look good at all, though. So maybe we understand now why Bashaud Breeland looked to be the starter and number 2 on the depth chart, because Dantzler just did not look good at all.
And I think part of it, and I think you pointed this out, during the game is that, a lot of the guys that were out there with the 2s and the 3s for the Vikings on defense in this game, those were guys that were starting at the end of last year. Your Chris Boyds were starting at the end of last year, and Dantzler, obviously, when he was healthy, he was starting. So there were some guys out there that had a little bit of experience, but it goes back to a lot of the discipline issues and stuff like that Drew was talking about, I think.
Now, when we're talking about the coaching staff, one thing I want to talk about, we were told, hey, Clint with a K, son of Gary Kubiak, it's going to be his offense. He's going to do things his way. I got to tell you, the innovation I saw today was pretty wild. The Vikings not only ran left, they ran to the right.
Whoa.
And then they ran up the middle. And again, look, I get you're trying to establish your bread and butter plays. I'm making more jokes than I probably should be. And I'm probably being more critical than I should for a preseason game. But when you are, I get that you try to establish your bread and butter running plays, and the Vikings are going to be a run first team. We all get that. But when you're down, by 20 points, and you've got a rookie quarterback in, I'm still kind of curious as to why we're still encouraged by running the ball. I mean, why the Vikings were thinking running the ball at that point was something that you want to do, because I would think you would at least want to see what your young rookie quarterback can do. Throw the ball downfield. Can he make plays? Can he read the defense? Can he see what's unfolding? Can he handle the speed of the game? And can he put the team back in a position to win the game? And we didn't really see any of that. They completely took the ball out of Kellen Mond's hands. Drew, do you agree with that, or am I off base here?
No, I think you're dead on with that. I mean, what do you got to lose? It's a preseason game. That's what I was thinking about, that field goal at the end of the first half. Come on, just go for it. Who cares if you're going to kick a chip shot field goal? Do you really need to see what you're going to do with a chip shot field goal as opposed to your rookie on fourth down trying to make a big play for a score? That's more important, isn't it? Isn't that more important for Mond? Isn't that more important than kicking a fucking? I just did it.
I would argue.
Sorry,
watching this kicker kick a field goal is pretty exciting stuff. Seeing as how
was it just me, or was that clock management? Sorry to cut you off, Ted. Was that clock management at the end of the first half terrible?
It was awful. It was the run-heavy stuff. Go ahead,
and that doesn't matter what string of offense or defense is in. Clock management is clock management. It doesn't matter who's in there personnel-wise. You run the same clock management no matter what, and that stunk, in my opinion.
No, the clock management would have made sense if they were going to go ahead and go for it on fourth down anyway, but they didn't, because, run the clock down if you're going to, go for it on fourth down with 2 seconds left. Fine, whatever. Do whatever you're going to do on third down. But to manage the clock that way, just so you can set yourself up for a 25-yard field goal, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, throw the ball into the end zone once or something. I don't.
Did the Vikings? Sorry, did the Vikings throw the ball more than 20 yards past the line of scrimmage today?
Yeah. Patrick Surtain had like a 30-yard catch.
No. I mean, like, the ball travel more than 20 yards out of the quarterback's hands.
The reception return was 32.
Given that the fact that the Vikings leading wide receiver today, or leading receiver overall, had 18 yards.
Oh,
AJ Rose, one of the few highlights of this game. 1 catch for 18 yards was good enough to be the leading receiver for the Minnesota Vikings this afternoon.
We're doing stock up and stock down. Ted, who do you got for stock up? I like Axl Rose myself. You did all right.
Yeah. Welcome to the jungle, baby.
You know who you are.
You're going to die. AJ Rose Jr.
He had like 100 yards, didn't he?
He did. I think he had like right at 100 yards rushing.
Yep. 25 carries for 100 yards.
Damn.
Was the Vikings leading receiver as well. And the reason, Drew, you had mentioned get out of the game injury free, and we don't know how serious this is yet. But Kene Wong, the rookie running back out of Iowa State, we all were pretty excited about. We thought we would see him a fair amount today. I think he returned the opening kickoff maybe, and then or the Vikings' first kick, and I don't remember seeing him on the field. And he didn't. At halftime, it was announced he had a knee injury, and linebacker Cam Smith in his first action since coming back from open heart surgery last year got hurt. He's probably going to go in the concussion protocols now. So those were the only two big injuries. But AJ Rose made the absolute most of his opportunity, I would argue.
Yes.
He did.
Yes. I thought Cam Smith, before he got the concussion, was playing really well. And in the Wengu thing, Wing Chung is really disappointing to go out that early. I mean, that's just Vikings have some injury problems, and I don't know why, but they're disheartening. I was really hoping to see him play more.
Now, hopefully it's not serious. It's very early. Assuming it's not really, really serious, I would just assume they'll keep him out next week just as a precaution because it's preseason, which still gives AJ Rose Jr. another opportunity. I mean, does Amir Abdullah do anything for you guys on this Vikings roster? Chris, was he one of the guys you thought the Vikings should cut?
Oh yeah, I thought Wang Wu was essentially Amir Abdullah's replacement.
Yeah,
Wang Wu was going to return kicks and be the third running back and all his other stuff. And yeah, there's nothing that Abdullah does that I don't think Wang Wu can also do faster and cheaper. So yeah, I mean, I don't. Unless the injury is serious, I don't know if Abdullah makes this team. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't understand what the Vikings' fascination is with both him and Dozier. I just don't get it. I move on because when, speaking about Dakota Dozier in the right guard, and discussing other rookies, I thought Wyatt Davis, when he went in, I think he went in right before halftime, right towards the end of the half.
He played well.
Yeah, I thought he played very well. And if you want to talk about a starting right guard competition, let's make it between Oli Udoh and Wyatt Davis now, and just let's end this Dakota Dozier experiment once and for all because the guy just doesn't have it.
Let's go.
No.
Yeah,
I'm so done with Dozier.
Let it be law right there. Let it be law. I thought Wyatt Davis played really well. Also,
yeah,
I kind of like Mond as the second quarterback right now. I know it's one game, but he looked like movement-wise and everything else, he looked way better than that Browning guy. And I know Browning maybe just had an off day, but Mond I thought played really well for not having a lot of snaps at camp.
Yeah,
I thought he played well.
Chris, go ahead. What are your thoughts on Kellen Mond?
I mean, I was basically agreeing with Drew. I mean, I like the fact that he showed a little mobility a few times, of whether it was a designed run or just getting out of the pocket and scrambling for yards. He should have had a touchdown pass. I thought Whop Fillier hauled that one in, but apparently he didn't have possession long enough. But yeah, he showed some ability to move around the pocket. And if he had missed all the practices because of the COVID thing, he'd probably be the unquestioned number 2 right now. I mean, even though I'm not sure if the Vikings want him playing this year or not, but he looked solid for the most part. I mean, the numbers weren't great. I think he was got the numbers here. He was 6 for 16 for 53 yards, but for a guy that's only practiced like 3 times, that's not awful, I guess.
Right.
He had 2 plays that stood out for me that made me think the Vikings might have something. He had he had a rush coming in and he stepped up in the pocket, dumped it off to, I believe it was Rose.
Yes.
And Rose went, I think that was the 18-yard catch and run Rose had that got the Vikings a first down. And then down on the goal line on the 4th down play that you mentioned, Chris, I thought he had a money throw to Fillier until it got whopped out of his hands.
What?
Wah, 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 wah. Yeah, I think there's some things you can take away from Kellen Mond's performance that you can build on. It wasn't like a Justin Fields debut who had a really good game against the Bears for the Bears against whoever it was they were playing today from what I saw. But there were some things, and you mentioned he's had like less than a week of practice. He played most of the game. I think the Vikings really took a lot of potential game plays out of his hand by sticking to the run when they're down by so much in the second half. But when he did kind of get out and move, you thought, okay, yeah, he made some good throws. There were some couple drops. Amir Smith-Marset didn't do anybody any favors today.
No.
But yeah, it's something you can build on and move towards next week, if nothing else. He didn't look completely lost, which was like, to me, the biggest thing. Because I kind of expected that. I with so little practice time, I didn't expect him to play nearly as well as he did.
And I think he played better than I expected him to play. The Viking receivers were dropping passes all day. They looked like garbage.
Yeah.
They didn't look good at all. And I'm with you on that. It's late in the fourth quarter. It's 33-6. It's 3rd and 9, and you're running off tackle into the B. Why?
Why?
Let him do some play action. Let him roll out. Let's see what the guy can do. What? It's like conceding to it rather than working on your game plan. It just seems BS to me. I don't like it.
Yeah, there was very much a let's just finish up and get out of here, which I can totally get because it's a preseason game. But I also thought that was a good time to try and develop Mond a little bit.
Yes.
See what he can do.
Yep.
Look, I mean, you practice the 2-minute drill every day at practice. You practice a 2-minute scenario and other different scenarios. And the Vikings just didn't seem to take advantage of those opportunities, even though the game was well in hand. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that from the Vikings, why they did that, what their thinking was. I don't know.
They had one series when they turned it over on downs, and then Denver got it and turned it over on downs right back to them.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is it. Let's open it up. Let's go down and score one touchdown. Let's end this crappy day and get – no, I'm serious.
You're right.
And the Vikings start running it up the middle like Zimmer's going, oh, I got to go to dinner. That was their opportunity. Turned it over on downs. Denver turned it back over on downs. Let's take the shit down and let's get a touchdown. We haven't got a touchdown all day. Let's put it together. Let's have one good drive. Come on, guys. Let's do it. We'll do some creative calls and we'll go down and score. Fans will be happy. We can hang our hat on that and end it with a good day. But none of it. It's just.
Yep.
You only have 3 of these games. You have 3 preseason games. Practice your shit.
Hey, let me ask you, with the 3 games, are you surprised? Chris, I'll ask you first, and then Drew. Are you surprised Mike Zimmer sat all of the starters on both sides of the ball?
I am kind of, because when they had 4 preseason games, way back in 2019, they had the first preseason game. The starters got a series or 2, and then the second game they got like most of the first half, and then the third game they played until after halftime, and then the fourth game you benched everybody so that you could try to evaluate the bottom of the roster. I thought we would get kind of the same thing with the first preseason game, where the starters would go out there and play like maybe a series or 2, kind of like the Broncos did with their starters. But yeah, I was pretty surprised because I saw the link come up. Vikings name players that aren't going to play on Saturday afternoon, and I expected like 10, 15 names. No, there was like 30 names on the list. Like anybody that's going to be a meaningful contributor or a backup didn't play today. So yeah, it's really tough to evaluate a whole lot. But yeah, I was pretty surprised that they benched as many people as they did.
Drew, were you surprised the Vikings sat all their starters, and would you have done the same if you were the head coach?
I'm surprised by everything the Vikings do. Yeah, this is why I'm surprised. I know what you got with Thielen, Jefferson, Cousins. They know each other. Cook, you know what Cook's going to do. But you have to get some cohesiveness with that offensive line. You have to play together. You have to. And let's take it to the defensive side of the ball. Look at your defense last year. It was a sieve. You need as much time out there with your starters, at least a couple series with Barr and Kendricks going through the motion. You have to put them out there. I am shocked. I don't know why. Unless he's just totally gun shy about getting guys hurt. Unless Zimmer's scared about getting the whole team hurt because he knows his backups aren't going to cut the mustard. But I don't know why you don't play at least one series for the offense and defense today. I don't get it.
Exactly my thoughts. Fantastic. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If Kirk Cousins hadn't played, wouldn't have bothered me. If Thielen and obviously Jefferson with the recovering from the AC joint or whatever, not a problem. But that first string offensive line needs to get some playing time together, and they really haven't. And you're running out guys that aren't going to be on the roster probably at the end of the month. And then when you look at the defensive side, that's another great point, because how many new guys are starting on this defense this year that weren't here last year? I mean, they've played together in practice, but it would have been nice to see them just play for a series or 2 at the beginning of the game, just to see what they had and where they could have, built off of those one or two series today. And that, I don't know, man. I'm a huge Vikings fan. I get it. And it's only one preseason game, but there were a couple of troubling things that were more coaching staff oriented, I think, than player oriented. Look, when it's 33-6,
yes,
and it's Denver's first team against the Vikings second and third team, you're gonna have this kind of result. And okay, fine, whatever. But when you look at the way the offense handled themselves in a 2-minute drive, the stupid penalties, even with the couple first string guys that were playing, it was just bothersome, just a little bothersome.
It was, and you're talking about the defensive line. You're potentially looking at starting 4 guys who didn't play for the Vikings last year. I mean, Michael Pierce opted out. Daniil Hunter had the neck issue. He didn't play. Dalvin Tomlinson didn't play for the Vikings last year. Stephen Weatherly didn't play for the Vikings last year. I mean, we know that those guys are there to protect Barr and Kendricks and whatnot, but they need to have that time together. Like Drew was saying, I mean, you don't just, you can do it in practice all you want, but there are things that you can't learn without being in the game situation. And even if it would have been for 1 or 2 series, I think they needed to do something like that today. And they, for whatever reason, chose not to.
If this team was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, bringing all 22 guys back, coming off a Super Bowl win, okay, sit everybody. I don't care.
Sure, it's a great point.
But you're 7-9. You missed the playoffs. You got a lot of hot seats on that side on the sideline. You got a whole bunch of new people on both sides of the ball, and then you just decide to not play your starters at all. Not even one series.
Ted, between the personnel, the starters, the undisciplined play, and the vanilla play calling, it seemed like Zimmer went into this game just trying to get through it. All right, let's just get through it so we can get to practice. It didn't feel like there was a lot of emphasis put on let's execute and do this and get creative with this. And it just seemed like we went into from the kickoff to the end. All right, let's just get it done. Run it up the middle. Let's get it done.
Run the clock. Don't run out of bounds. Let's get out of here.
It just seemed like
next week. Yeah.
I guess maybe they're thinking the Indy game against the Colts will be when we break out the starters and they could play a couple series, but it seems like a waste of time today unless you really want to. Seemed like we could have got more out of today than what they got out of it.
Unless you were AJ Rose Jr., yeah, I think it just felt like a huge waste of time.
Axl Rose Jr. Yeah. And I also want to point out Patrick Jones, the second, I think he had a great game.
He did.
He did.
Chaz Surratt, I saw him make a couple plays. Janarius Robinson made a couple of good plays.
Mm-hmm.
Those young defensive guys that they drafted in the in the flotsam and jetsam of that football game actually stood out. You thought to yourself, okay, those are some guys that for the future the Vikings might have something to work with. Do we got anything else we want to say about this thing?
Greg Joseph made all of his
Greg
kicks.
Joseph, too.
Yeah. Huzzah! Yeah. Huzzah! All right. So,
tackling sucked.
Yeah. I mean, just fundamentally,
tackling was horrible.
It was. Coverage was bad. The receivers couldn't catch. I mean, you remember when John McKay was the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? And they were terrible. They were the expansion team, and they were like 0-52 or whatever it was. And they got like maybe 3 first downs in a game. And a reporter asked me after the game, what are your thoughts on the execution of your offense? McKay said, I'm all for it. I mean, it was just kind of one of those days. It just was bad, man, all the way around. Just all the way around.
And Zimmer actually sounded like John McKay as part of his halftime interview, apparently, because they had the transcript where, the tackling sucked, whatever. Other than that, everything was great.
When does that start falling on deaf ears? It's just not good enough. We need to play better. I mean, come on.
It may already have. You don't know, but it's going to be something to keep an eye on. That's for sure.
Luckily, it was a practice game. Can we go into Cincinnati and play like that?
Oh,
yeah.
See, well, I mean, if the Vikings sit 30 guys going into Cincinnati, I'm kind of throwing this one out a little bit, at least for the performance on the field. We talked about the discipline and the kind of the coaching approach to this. I want to wait and see what happens next week when they put in their first team guys and play them a little bit and see what happens. If some of those trends continue, first time kind of a gimme, second time's a trend, and the third time, buddy, you might have problems. I don't know. Point. So we'll see. I mean, if the Vikings were treating this like a throwaway game, like we kind of feel it was, it just sort of felt like it. Then let's wait and see what happens next week, I think. But I don't know.
Well said, Ted.
I got there are a couple good things I thought, especially from some of the rookies with, Kellen Mond was okay. Wyatt Davis, the defensive guys, Surratt, Jones, Robinson.
Didn't that Zach Davison drop 2 passes already? Come on, man.
Yeah,
he dropped what should have been a touchdown.
Isn't that the one-handed unicorn guy from camp with the helmet? Come on now.
Watt Fillier dropped a touchdown pass. So, yeah.
Come on, Wop!
Have another whopper.
That was a really nice pass. That was a nice pass to him.
It was.
That was a good
throw by Mond.
It really was. It was. So
Ted doesn't want to go over the Danny Etling highlights at the end.
What Danny Etling highlights?
I think he was in there. He fumbled the snap and then ran for his life or something. Something else. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention at the end there.
Let me ask you this, and we'll sort of head out from here. So
okay.
Jake Browning had that really good last Saturday, I think it was, the practice, and everybody's high on Jake Browning, and his play sort of decreased over the last week or so. Started today, very unimpressive start. Kellen Mond came in and played, and really wasn't a whole lot better, but you saw a couple things. Is there a competition for quarterback 2, or is it still Jake Browning's job? Chris, what do you think?
I've said numerous times that I think that the Vikings want Mond to stand on the sidelines wearing a baseball cap and carrying a clipboard this year. And I think that Browning is still the number 2 guy at this point, even though he looked like hot garbage for most of the afternoon today. It's just because they want that layer between Cousins and Mond at this point. If Mond comes out and lights it up the next 2 games and definitively takes the job from Browning, that's one thing, but I don't think they want Mond playing this year. I think they want him to caddy for a season or 2 before he officially takes over. So I think Browning's still sitting at the number 2 spot right now.
Drew, what do you think?
Mond is hot garbage. I mean that in a good way. I think when I watch the body language and how they look when they're calling the plays and how they look in the pocket, you could tell that Mond has a lot bigger upside than Browning. You could tell.
I would agree there, yes.
It's just a matter of time before he takes over that position. Browning, this is the first time I really had a chance to watch him series after series after series. You know what that guy's problem is, besides thriving in the Pac-12? I think he has the clock in his head's too slow. He holds the ball too long. It doesn't transfer. He doesn't process the information fast enough. I mean, he has all the fundamentals. He can throw the ball. He has a good arm and everything, but he just needs to do everything faster. So, and I see that with Mond. The play that Ted talked about when he's under duress and he dumped it off to the running back, the 18-yard, that was my favorite play by Mond today. And I'm glad you brought that up because that showed, even under pressure, ability to make a play. That's when you're testing a quarterback. And I see a lot more potential with him. So I think he'll be the number 2.
And I'm not sure you can coach that, really. I mean, you can tell him, but you either have that innate sense of time to get out of the pocket and look for a guy or run the ball, or you don't. And I haven't really seen that from Jake Browning. I did see a little bit of that from Kellen Mond today, but again, it's really, really early in his career. So folks, 33-6, kind of a the Vikings got foreclosed at the bank today is what happened. The next week they got Indianapolis, I think, in Indy, I believe it is.
Yes.
No, it's in Minnesota.
It is in Minnesota.
Yep.
As of right now, I don't know if that game is going to be broadcast live on NFL Network or not. So for right now, we will not have a live post-game show because neither one of us or none of the three of us can get the game live. I think we'll try and do a live post-game at the end of the Chiefs game, but we're still working on that. We're not sure. But Vikings Report Rewind will be back for sure. Week 1 at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Jungle.
In the jungle.
And hopefully we'll all be a hell of a lot happier than this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We'll be happier.
I'm just sort of taking this with a grain of salt. I kind of agree with you, Drew, that this was just sort of the coaches. Look, we practiced these guys for 3 days. We've done all we can do. Let's just get out of here without getting injured and figure out what's going to happen next week.
Yeah, it's really, really, really generic game. We all got work to do, though. It's only the preseason.
Yeah.
I mean, if I ask you guys right now, who is the Philadelphia head coach?
Rizzy or something like that. Yeah. I don't know.
Who is the San Diego head coach?
Who cares?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm making who does care? I'm just saying we got a lot of work to do this preseason. It's still preseason.
Yeah.
It's nobody because San Diego doesn't have a team anymore, Drew.
Oh, trick question.
You're right. You're right. I totally botched that.
It's been like 3 years. I still type San Diego Chargers into the damn stories I write for PN and stuff. We need to have an upbeat thing to kind of end on. So yeah, we can.
Yeah. So who's the coach for the Ernie Nevers Eskimos, big man? Tell me that one.
Ernie Nevers.
Ernie. No, we wanted a better game to kick off our preseason, but it just wasn't happening. And I could tell about 3 minutes into the game, it doesn't look right, man. This does not look good.
When Dakota Dozier did the Danube waltz with Shamar Stephen in the end zone, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a long day.
When Surtain took that pick 6,
jeez,
that's the time when you do.
Yeah,
it's but you know what? We'll regroup. And I think Ted said something 10 minutes ago that's very important. Let's not cast any judgment until we see the starters out there for at least a couple series. And even then, they're only going to play a couple series. But it could be a whole different deal when we play Indy next week in Minnesota.
Yeah,
yeah.
So be patient. There were some good things to take away from today. I thought some of the rookies played very well. Wyatt Davis, especially, who probably got the most game action. I would have to look at the snap counts, but. Anyways, Christopher, last thoughts, Drew, last thoughts, and then we'll wrap this show up.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what you guys have been saying. I mean, it's difficult to kind of really evaluate things without seeing any of the starters. Anybody is going to be a meaningful contributor to this football team for the most part. Yeah, like we said at the beginning, you don't want to see your team take a 27-point, whooping in their preseason opener after you've waited 7 months to watch them play football again. But yeah, it is what it is. And all you can hope is that they get some things fixed and do it better next time.
Drew?
Do it better the next time. Come on, man. I'm just glad to be, you know what? I'm glad to be doing this live show with you guys. I've been looking forward to this. No matter how crappy the Vikings played today, they can't ruin my stokedness of being able to do live shows with you two, because I always learn something. It's fun, and we'll have our good days. We'll have at least 3 or 4 days we can celebrate a victory. I guarantee you. We'll have some good days. Wouldn't it be nice to get one touchdown, wouldn't it, guys? One? Yeah. We need one. We gotta get one touchdown. Can you get one?
Way to ruin it, Wop.
We might.
Wop, there it ain't.
Well, we might have got it. Might have got it too if we'd have went for it instead of kicked the field goal at the end of the second half. Was that 3 points really that crucial, Ted Glover? I mean,
no, it was not.
So we'll roll through this one. Looking forward to doing the next show with you guys, and just a lot of fun. And Skull, we'll be better the next time.
All right, folks, it's time to put this one behind us. We're going to check out the jive. We're going to bring in the love. Next week we got the Colts. Preseason game number 2. We're going to get some of the starters going, and hopefully we'll have a better result and a lot more positive things to discuss than what we saw today. Although there were some positive things, and we'll carry that on over into the next show and into the next week. So, thanks for joining us. Thanks for commenting. For everybody that joined us on the live show, really, really appreciate it. Didn't get over there as much, but we will we'll work on doing better in the future. So we will see you later.
Say good night, Chris.
Good night, Chris.
Say good night, Ted.
Good night, Ted.
God.
I love doing shows with you guys. I feel like we've done shows since 1978 together, dude. When this is before Chris became before